Hey everybody, and welcome to the Pizzatola Sports Center on the campus of Brown University on Providence's east side for the first home quad meet of the season for the Brown University Bears as they take on three other teams from the New England region, the University of Bridgeport, Rhode Island College from right down the road here in Providence, and Southern Connecticut State University. We take a look at the road to nationals right now, and it's tight. Brown at 58, the lone team that's in the 190s of these four at 192 and change. And then RIC and Bridgeport separated by just one spot, as both those teams separated by mere tenths at 187, with Southern Connecticut not too far behind them as well at 78. My name is Mason Stouff. Welcome into the Pizzatola Sports Center. And as we take a look at the many different players to watch on this outstanding Sunday afternoon, they come from all four different apparatus. We start with Abby Contello of the Brown Bears. We'll probably see her on three different apparatus, but you can see her outstanding week last week on the bars and that 9.825 on vault, where she will start being named the GEC Gymnast of the Week. The senior and one of the leaders on this Brown Bears team looking to continue to reach new heights today. As you see her warming up on bars. Over to Bridgeport, Lola Sepulveda, one of probably two athletes, along with Olivia Keys of RIC, who we may see on all four apparatus. She is outstanding on the floor, and we will see her in a couple of rotations as all these athletes move around. But when you're your best at the floor, that's usually the highlight reel exercise, and she is going to be one to watch. You see that 38.05 across all four events placed her second place at the Temple Quad last week. On the Rhode Island College side of things, mentioned Olivia Keys. She will also likely feature on all four events, certainly three, but she can go all around as she did last week. She is best at the beam. That is always the toughest event, in my opinion. You see what she did last week at SUNY, the 37.7, first in the all-around, and she has the ability to put up 9.7, maybe even 9.8 in the beam, which is outstanding. And finally, for Southern Connecticut State, Cian Rios. She is one of the specialists at the bars. Talk about an outstanding athlete. And you see her there. She is incredibly long and incredibly skilled in the bars. Again, an athlete that could easily put up 9.7 and change if she hits her routine this afternoon. We're going to get you ready and get you ready for the opening rotation coming up after this. This is the Brown University Bears and the Ivy League on ESPN+. And we welcome you back to the Pizzatola Sports Center. Having some technical difficulties with the public address mic, which interrupted things in the middle of Southern Connecticut State's walkout, but give you an opportunity and giving us an opportunity to forecast what is to come. Again, this is a quad meet, so all four teams will be moving around the apparatus simultaneously. Brown, as the home team, will go through the Olympic order. So vault, bars, beam, and floor. And as we highlighted in the open, Abby Contello, she will be slated fifth in that vault. So when she comes up very early in this meet, we will take a look at her two vaults and looking to continue her outstanding performances over the last couple of weeks that led her to be GEC Gymnast of the Week. Julia Bedell will anchor that vault for Brown. Bridgeport will be starting on the bars. We will get a chance to see Lola Sepulveda doing her floor routine, which we expect to be the highlight of Bridgeport's meet potentially. She will anchor that event, and that will come up third for the Purple Knights. For Rhode Island College, they will start on the beam, which means just as we see the highlights of Abby Contello potentially on vault early for Brown, that means Keys, the anchor of the beam, that will come up first for her. Opportunity to potentially post a huge score. And Keys will be one of three all-arounders today for Rhode Island College. As we expected, Brown not going to put anyone through all four apparatus, and Sepulveda for Bridgeport is the only one for the Purple Knights who will compete in all four events. Southern Connecticut will not have any all-arounders either, but Rhode Island College, despite their large roster, will have three different athletes competing in all four apparatus, and that includes Olivia Keys, alongside Kelsey Gates and Emma Tucker, who will anchor things in the vault that will come up third. Southern Connecticut, Cian Rios, expect good things on the bars for her. She will be slated 5th in that event. And she will compete in that event 3rd, as we expect the Owls to start on the floor. And here come the Brown Bears. Really high expectations for this Brown team under head coach and first-year head coach Brittany Harris. Originally a graduate of Oregon State, who of course Brown went out to last weekend as part of a quad meet against the 18th ranked Beavers to go along with 8th ranked Denver and Sacramento State. Oregon State led by Jade Carey, who put up a 38.250 in her all-around, including a 10 on her first vault. Of course, an Olympic athlete in the most recent Summer Olympic Games a little over a year and a half ago now. And so Jade Carey, the highlight, and she did not disappoint, as she was astonishing in her all-around last week. And it was great to see Brown compete in that event. Placed 3rd of the 4 schools, ahead of Sacramento State and behind the 2 nationally ranked teams from Oregon State and Denver. Oregon State took down that quad meet, knocking off the number 8th ranked Denver squad. But really high expectations for Brittany Harris, who was a 2016 grad of Oregon State. We tracked the road to nationals coming in, and Brown 192 plus through their first couple of meets, and they have really high expectations. In fact, they do believe that if all things go well today, they could break the 194 threshold as they continue to try and climb up those road to nationals rankings. Still early in the season, but already at week 4 of the gymnastics season, and an outstanding turnout. We have filled the bleachers below me to my right, including many of the fans being forced to cram into the far bleachers that'll get the best look at the beam way off in the distance here at the Pizzatola Sports Center. But there is Brittany Harris. You see her tall for a gymnast, standing 5'7", 5'8", but qualified for a national championships when she was at Oregon State, and went right into coaching upon graduation now 7 years ago, and taking over this Brown team. And what a deep team they have. As we pause for the national anthem, and then we will get you ready for gymnastics here on this Sunday from Providence.
So proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets sprang glare, the bolts bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
An outstanding turnout as we get ready for the opening quad meet at home this season for the Brown University Bears. Outstanding gymnastics to come, plenty of showmanship, and lots of sparkles, as you can see. The teams take off their warm-up suits and get ready to go. Mason Stelf on the call. You're watching you're watching Ivy League gymnastics on ESPN Plus. Brown will head over to the vault to get things started. what should be an outstanding day. Brown, as we mentioned in the open, the lone team that has placed above 190 on average this season. You see this first rotation. We go in Olympic order, so Brown will start on the vault. Bridgeport over on the beam. RIC on floor, and Southern Connecticut State will be on bars first. Still have some final setting up to do, but should be a great one. These teams who have already clashed a couple of times as you go through these quad meets to start the season, and oftentimes you will encounter other opponents from your conference. 3 of these teams competing out of the GEC. Southern Connecticut State, Brown, and Bridgeport all do, with Rhode Island College, D3 institution, competing out of the National Collegiate Gymnastics Association, the NCGA East. You'll be able to tell the colors pretty clearly. Rhode Island College in the maroons with the sparkly anchor on the back of their uniforms, and they will start on floor. They'll be led on that by Kaylee Ferry to start things. And as things do move around a bit, that means that RIC will put Olivia Keys last on her patented bars. And as we finally get things ready, we are already underway. And teams get their final warm-ups in. But these teams have been out here very early. You see we'll have quad cams going for you, with Bridgeport down in the lower right, starting on the beam. Brown will be in your top left on vault. We'll keep track of that. And again, Abby Cantella will be due up 5th in the vault for Brown. Southern Connecticut in the white and blue leotards down in the bottom left-hand corner of your screen, starting on the bars. And Bridgeport, the big UB on the front of their purple leotards, down in the bottom right. We get a chance to meet our officials this afternoon. Starting on the vault, Mickey Ginty and Jennifer Thaler, with Ginty the head judge there. At the bars, it'll be Bonnie Butch and Sarah Keegan. At the beam, Lorraine Duffy and Andy Neal. And Patty Colorossi and Chessa Trevino will be judging the floor this afternoon. Still have about 3 minutes left in warm-ups. But again, we'll go through the orders on this first apparatus. Things will be a little bit more tough to keep track of once we start, but Brown over on vault. We'll start Lauren Kramer as the leadoff. Umi El Maman will vault second. Angela Zing, vault specialist third. Sophia Duar will be fourth, with Abby Cancello and Julia Bedell anchoring things in the 5 and 6 spot for the Bears. Bridgeport over on bars, Lola Sepulveda. She will be on all 4 apparatus, and you see her there doing her warm-ups on the bars. She is outstanding all-around gymnast, and she is going to be the lone owl that competes on all 4 events. Sepulveda, then Abigail Kenny, Kieran Ross, Olivia Mbarlina, and Catherine O'Coin, with the anchor being handed to Joanna Chambers. Speaking of anchors, the anchor women on floor to start, where Brown will, of course, finish. Kaylee Ferry, Julia Yitz, Morgan Lunn, Emma Tucker, Olivia Keys, and Kelsey Gates. And again, Gates, Keys, and Tucker will be on all 4 events. So that is going to be a grueling day for them. And to start on floor can sometimes be a blessing. That is tough to finish on. Those long routines after you've competed in 2, upwards of 3 events if you're the Bears. Meanwhile, the anchor women get to start there. So get arguably the most difficult event in terms of grueling taxation out of the way. And last up for Southern Connecticut State, they start on the bars. Megan Workman, Sarah Ortiz, Cameron Leinheiser, JC Jordan, Sienna Rios, and Hannah Stahlbrot. Take that back there on beam. So Libby Allen, Sydney Smith, Alexa Melanson, Abby Royer, Emily Kahl, and Angel Lee will be the 6 on the beam, which, again, you can see there. Bridgeport completing their warm-ups. About 30 seconds to go as we get ready for quad home meet number 1 for the Brown Bears. And you see the Bears getting ready to go. They are all set. Maybe 1 or 2 more tumbles down the ramp. Get a chance to meet the coaches as well. We've already talked about Brittany Harris. That's Southern Connecticut's Byron Knox. Lone team of these 4 led by a male head coach. Bridgeport led by Lorraine Gallo. Rhode Island College's head coach is interesting, Monica Massalas-Nassi. She is a former Purple Knight herself. Bridgeport, an outstanding team at the Division II level. She won 4 national titles, did Massalas-Nassi, as a member of the Bridgeport Purple Knights, and we are just about set to get going. Again, we will give you these 4 camera setup as much as we possibly can. Vault will go quickest, so we'll focus there for probably the first couple of minutes, and that is also where the Brown Bears will start with Lauren Kramer getting us underway on that apparatus. Kramer, the junior, 5'3" from Downers Grove, Illinois. You'll see that in the top left corner of your screen as we are underway. There goes Kramer into the round off, and good start for the Brown Bears. A little bit of a step on the landing, but still outstanding into the round off. Couple of spins and a twist. Underway on the beam as well, as Bridgeport starts there. And Jordan Street, nice job keeping her footing. Straight. Splits, nice hold there. RIC starting their floor exercise as well. And that's the sound of Kaylee Ferry's music, and it can be a little bit overwhelming as everybody trying to watch their athletes. Good landing to start for Southern Connecticut as Ferry goes into her artistic elements of her floor routine and heads into that corner closest to me for the next tumbling pass. Brown gets ready for their next tumbler, Umi El Maman on the vault. Little step out to the right side from Ferry, but everybody has been clean so far across the 4 different apparatus as we start this Sunday afternoon quad meet here in Providence. Still all focused on Ferry at the moment as everybody in between gymnasts. And a nice routine to start things for Rhode Island College. And Kaylee Ferry. Ferry, sophomore from Gilbertsville, Pennsylvania. She is not one of the 3 all-arounders, so specialist for Ferry as she gets some advice from her coaches. Meanwhile, El Maman gets ready to head down the vault for Brown. After a nice start from Lauren Kramer, El Maman gets ready to tumble. And there she goes. Into the round off, Yurchenko. Ooh, very short. Looks to be okay, but just did not get the spring that she needed off the trampoline, and upper body collides into the table And well short from El Maman. She'll have a second go of it, but you see the replay. Ooh! Does not even get the hands onto the table. That could have gone much worse and looks to be okay. This is a very dangerous sport. You don't usually see the injuries come on the vault as much as the floor exercise or on the beam, as you see a tumble down to the mat by Southern Connecticut's gymnast in the lower left-hand corner of your screen. On the bars, Sarah Ortiz. So she will have to get back up there, regather herself. You will likely see her try and redo that element, as when you fall, you want to go and you want to redo that element, because if you don't, that will drop your starting score. Most people assuming that you know if you've been around this sport for long enough, but we will rehash for those of you that don't. In college gymnastics, everything starts out of a 10, although these officials have pre-scripted scores for every element that you do. So not every routine will start at a 10. Some will start at a 9.95. Some might even start a little bit lower. And on the bars in particular, as well as if you go over to the beam, if you do not complete your routine with every single pre-scripted element, then your starting score will go down. And so your deductions would then go off of a lower starting score. So that's why you want to go back up, try and complete the routine and redo the element that you missed so that your starting score at least stays high, even though the deductions will, of course, take you down. Bridgeport getting ready for their third gymnast on bars. Saw her there. Or should I say beam, and that's Kieran Ross, who prepares to leap up onto the beam. Just 10 centimeters in width, so tiny. The margin for area so small as Brown gets ready for another vault. Much better takeoff, still a little bit short on the landing. But Angela Zing gets down there, and she is pumped up. We've seen some good things from Zing through the first couple of meets this season. As the next floor exercise begins for Rhode Island College as well. Morgan Lunn is there. So Brown 3 vaults in on their first of 2 passes. So far, Lauren Kramer, strong start for her. She put up a 9.575 on her first tumble. El Maman, just a 7 after that difficult tumble, but at the same time, she's okay to continue, it looks like, and that's the most important thing. Kaylee Ferry scored a 9.425 on the floor for Rhode Island College. So I did jump one gymnast. It's Julia Yitz, who you see in your upper right-hand corner. Nice finish on that pass for Bridgeport on the beam, and you can see really nice celebrations as Bridgeport starting great on beam. Sepulveda scoring a 9.65, Jordan Street a 9.45, and that will likely add to a really nice start for the Purple Knights as Kieran Ross, outstanding, as she finishes her routine on the beam. And nice tumble. Brown getting things a little bit righted as Zing scoring a 9.375. You see that pass, perfect off the table. Just the step back with the right foot, but at the same time, probably the most spring we've seen off the board. As Bridgeport gets ready to send another onto the beam. Fourth up for the Purple Knights, Hannah Berry, as Southern Connecticut State continues on the bars. Sarah Ortiz, an 8.45, and Megan Workman, a nice respectable 9.175 for the Owls. Third up for Southern Connecticut on bars is Cameron Leinheiser. Leinheiser, a junior from Burlington Township, New Jersey. This is a Southern Connecticut State team that is heavily made up of transfers from Bridgeport. 8 different players, former Purple Knights, now competing for Southern Connecticut State. As a nice tumble for Brown as we continue through this first rotation. RIC getting ready to send their third gymnast onto the floor, which is always the last to finish, so we'll spend a little more time and focus on the anchors for Rhode Island College when we get there. As we look over to the beam, where Bridgeport continues there. Great stick at the end of the bars exercise, and look at the celebration for Southern Connecticut State too. Great conclusions to both those routines on the beam on one side of the gym and on the bars on the other. How about this? Perfect finish. The slightest hop here forward, so not the purest stick you can have, but you're not going to get much closer. And Bridgeport as well, celebrating, rightfully so. Great routines on opposite ends of the gym as you're going to see this conclusion here. Perfect round off. That's pure core strength because you got nothing to fling your body forward as Brown off to the vault. Great finish. Again, a little hop back. And that is Abby Cantello. We highlighted her GEC Gymnast of the Week last time out. And Rhode Island College ready for their third gymnast on floor, Morgan Lunn. Currently has the stage to herself, and we will go solo camera for her for just a moment. Steps into the corner of the mat and begins her opening tumbling pass. Good layout on the finish. Steps forward with the left foot, but nothing doing in terms of mistakes there. Bridgeport sending another player to the beam. Oh, great little round off there. Not even a sliver of a flinch from this athlete, Abigail Kenny. Really nice. Just has her feet glued to that beam when she lands. As Southern Connecticut prepares their next athlete, and this is Sienna Rios. So we will be very focused on her. Rios, outstanding gymnast. Oh! Did not get her hands out far enough to grasp the bars. And this is an area where she was expected to put up a really high score, so that is tough for Southern Connecticut. You put Rios as your fifth, and a nice finish for Rhode Island College on floor, but Rios, that is a very shocking fall for her. And it happens in her first event, too. She will chalk up her hands again. She can continue one time. So she still has a number of events still to go. We will see her second in the floor exercise, Rios. As those will be her 2 events today. Will not compete on beam or vault. Bridgeport getting ready to send out their anchors in the beam. You can see the current rotation scores. Brown understandably up front, but that's because we go through the vault fastest. 48.175. Bridgeport nearing to their conclusion on beam at 38.6. RIC is only halfway through their floor exercise. 3 of the 6 have gone. And again, we will drop the lowest score. Every team will send 6 gymnasts. You will take the top 5, which is why you want your rock first, want to put down a good score. And if you can land 5 clean runs, then you can have your anchor just try and lay down the highest score possible. And you can see the capability of Bridgeport on beam. They have really put out some really nice scores. Olivia Imbarilla, their anchor in this apparatus. Rios is back up on bars and looking much more like herself on this second go-around. You see her in the foreground or the background of your screen as she gets ready to dismount, and a really nice dismount at that. But Bridgeport continues on beam. A little bit of an overturn there, but turns it into an artistic element. That's what you got to do. Sometimes it is a fake it till you make it, at least to the fans. Now, the judges know exactly what they're looking for. You can't really fake it for the judges because they have a scripted score again for everything. A little bit overspun on that final dismount for Bridgeport, but fine there. And RIC with some intense music as Emma Tucker heads out there. Brown has completed their first pass on the vault. Of course, you get 2 goes at the vault. You take the average scores of each of the 2 vaults. So El Maman will have to keep that 7, but hopes that she can put a nice score down in her second run. Nice tumbling pass for RIC. Emma Tucker. Floor exercise, of course, has become the most popular event. The music obviously feeding into that, and it seems like every week we have a new highlight reel video coming out from the top programs showing what these young athletes can do. Another good routine for RIC on floor. Again, some teams like to start there if they can because it gets that out of the way early, whereas Brown will have to finish there. And after you've gone through your vaults, your beam routines, and your bar, that can be difficult to maneuver through. Bridgeport seems to have a lot of the camera time right now as while everybody else is getting ready for another routine. They just continue to coast through the beam. And a little step off. Just got to get your head right back into it. As Bridgeport finishing off their beam with Nicole Javinet. She's their anchor. Javinet. She is a beam specialist, so that's why that step off will feel a little bit more sour for her. When you really only compete on one apparatus, makes it so difficult when you can't convert for your team. Great layout dismount and nearly stuck for Southern Connecticut as they get to the end of their rotation. So we continue to go through the scores. Brown's first passes on vault. Bedell, 9.8, leading the way. Contello with a 9.75. Sophia Duar, 9.675. El Maman, the low score with the 7. But again, the fact that she is able to continue is the most important thing after really did not get the spring off the tramp and into the table. Kramer a 9.575 and Angela Zing a 9.375. RIC continues on floor. Great pass. What a tumble. Barely a foot wrong there. The slight step back at the conclusion, but that is the only thing you can fault there. Really nice pass from Olivia Keys. Just an outstanding gymnast, this young woman. We will see her on all 4 events, but showing what she's got on floor. A little bit of spunk in this routine as well. As she dances it out at the center, everybody else has finished their first rotation. And so all eyes on the anchor women at center court here at Pizzatola Sports Center. Really is knocking this routine out of the park as she goes for another tumbling pass. Lays out, pike position, beautiful. What a great routine this has been for Keys. And it's been a great rotation as well in general for the anchor women. As so far, Ferry put up a 9.425. Lynn followed that with a 9.5. Emma Tucker 9.575. Yitz 8.7. But a great routine. One of the best we've seen, if not the best we've seen so far today. Undoubtedly from Olivia Keys in the 5 spot. And even with that 8.7 in the 4 position from Yitz, that's 4 good routines. And because you will drop the low score, that means a really good routine from your anchor. And you could have a really high score as Kelsey Gates will be the final anchor woman up. Final gymnast on beam for Bridgeport. That's Nicole Javinet. So far on beam for Bridgeport. You see that final pass, and teammates greet her. It was really probably the best scores will be put down by Bridgeport in the beam. They put down 6 really good scores as we finish things on bars for Southern Connecticut State. Hannah Stahlbrot finishing things off for the Owls. You see her length. Slight step forward at the conclusion, but really great gymnastics so far as RIC should have one final gymnast to go on floor, and then we will rotate for the first time and take our first break of the afternoon. But Bridgeport on beam, putting off 3 scores of 9.8 plus. Hannah Berry and Olivia Mbarlina both had 9.8 flat. Javinet a 9.825. Kieran Ross 9.7. Lola Sepulveda 9.65. And Jordan Street 9.45. That comes out to a 48.775 as the apparatus score for Bridgeport. That is an outstanding score for one apparatus. So it's tough to determine exactly how the match is going because you got everybody on different apparatus that score differently. But Bridgeport putting down a really nice score that everybody's going to have to chase on beam. Brown will be their third. Southern Connecticut will switch ends of the building and head over there next, but we have our final gymnast for Rhode Island College in the floor coming up right here, and she will have the stage to herself. This is Kelsey Gates. Kelsey Gates, senior, 5'4", Orangeville, Pennsylvania, as she heads for the tumble. Great layout, perfect finish in the little jump at the end. RIC, their 2 anchors at 5 and 6 on floor, are putting on a show for this crowd, which again is filled here at the Pizzatola Sports Center. And we appreciate you joining us. You're watching Ivy League Gymnastics on ESPN+. Gates heads into the near corner, gets ready for another pass. Round off, step back with the left foot, but still sticks that landing. So have to be impressed with what we've seen from RIC and Bridgeport through the first rotation. Brown will have to be pleased as well as they got some great vaults, and because El Mamon's score will drop out, that's okay. Southern Connecticut Does have one more to go on bars as they try and complete their routines, and a fallback at the end. Tough conclusion, but that will bring us to the end of rotation number 1 here at Brown University in this quad meet. We'll take a pause and come back as everybody moves to the next apparatus, and we'll have play-by-play action for you. The little Queen's crown goes on, and the celebrations will continue as well. Again, you're watching the Ivy League on ESPN+. And we welcome you back. You see this outstanding turnout. We're on the brink of standing room only here at the Pizzatola Sports Center. We appreciate you spending part of your Sunday with us. You see the scores from the first rotation. These are all unofficial. The officials will have to get together and confirm everything at meet's end. But Brown a 48-175 on the vault with Bedell a nice 9-8. Bridgeport on beam, outstanding. They lead through the first rotation thanks to Nicole Javinet, in part her 9.825. Kelsey Gates and Olivia Keys both posting 9.725 on floor, and Southern Connecticut State a 46.625 with JC Jordan's 9.6 leading the way on bars. Now this is when I say it's difficult to track the scores in the middle of a meet because Brown, even though they're currently in second place, vault is typically a higher scoring apparatus than floor. And so that's why Rhode Island College's performance on floor is so good, because it still puts them in third, and they have now put arguably the hardest apparatus scoring-wise behind them. So now as we move around, we are going to continue to go in Olympic order, which if you're unfamiliar, vault, bars, beam, floor. Brown will follow that to a T. So they are over on the bars. So you see the fans again. And they will put out a lineup of Lauren Lazaro, Paige Richter, Lauren McEwen, Ella Poli, Abby Contello, and Asta Farrell. And Farrell, she will anchor things. This is her specialty event. And even though she is a third-year gymnast, Asta Farrell, this is only the first season that she has competed, thanks in large part to COVID 2 seasons ago. And then this past year, an ACL tear, which of course plagues so many gymnasts. She will anchor things for the Brown Bears on the bars. Rhode Island College, they move over from floor to vault, and they will start their quickest event with Kelsey Gates, Abigail Bunch, Kaylee Ferry, Sophia Damiano, and Olivia Keys, with their anchor being Emma Tucker. And again, Gates, Keys, and Tucker will compete in all 4 events this afternoon. Southern Connecticut has switched sides of the gym, and they move over to the balance beam. And for Southern Connecticut State on beam, Libby Allen, Sydney Smith, Alexa Melanson, Abby Royer, Emily Kahl, and Angel Lee, after they had some ups and downs on the bars. Would have liked to have a little bit of a better performance from Sienna Rios, who we highlighted in the open, but could not grasp the bar on her initial swing around it. And that forced her to come back to it, redo it, and was not at her best. Is so far so good for Brown as they chase a 194, which they believe is attainable. Brittany Harris, again in her first season, former Oregon State Beaver, was able to return out there last weekend for another quad meet where her team placed third against 2 nationally ranked opponents in Oregon State and Denver, along with Sacramento State. And Bridgeport, you see them there in their purple leotards, bedazzled in silver. They are off to floor after a really nice start on beam, leading the way through 1 apparatus. And Bridgeport on floor, Catherine O'Coin will lead things off, Tierney Milliken, Alexis Richardson, Abigail Kenny, Kieran Ross, and then their all-arounder, Lola Sepulveda, will anchor things for the Purple Knights. Again, this is a battle between 4 different schools that have very different paths. Brown, of course, D1 in all sports. Bridgeport and Southern Connecticut, normally D2 schools out of the Northeast 10 Conference traditionally, but conference rivals of Brown in the GEC. And then Rhode Island College, D3 for all other sports out of the Little East But of course, a local rival right here in Providence. They make their home right in downtown. We're on Providence's east side here at the Pizzadola Sports Center, and you see the anchor women getting ready to go. But so far, really good meet. All four teams putting up some good scores. Again, Bridgeport leading the way with 48-7-7-5 after their outstanding 5 scores put up on beam. Again, you drop your lowest score of your 6. And when you talk about strategy, now I'm not going to be one to say that I know all the strategies of gymnastics, but you want your first gymnast to put down a score. That's why you oftentimes call that your rock. If she can put down a score, then you have some wiggle room in gymnasts 2 through 4. And if you can get 4 to 5 clean runs, then you get your anchor, your number 6 gymnast, usually your best. If she can lay down something truly special, it skyrockets the score through the roof. As we are just about set to go, Brown will send Lauren Lazaro to the bars to start this rotation. Lazaro, shortest gymnast on the roster at 4'11", from down a little bit northwest in Wellesley, Massachusetts, as she hops up onto the bars to start things, and we are underway. Again, we will have quad cams. Still yet to get the vault underway at the moment, but good start for Southern Connecticut. Leftmost camera on beam. And a nice finish for Brown. That's how you want to start. That's why they call it the rock. You lay down that routine, it rejuvenates the entire team and gives so much confidence to athletes 2 through 6. So we will get Lazaro's score in a moment. RIC getting things going on vault. And a little bit of a tumble. Amazingly kind of stayed on her feet. Or was able to stay on the beam. Nice dismount for Southern Connecticut State as Bridgeport gets things going on floor with Catherine O'Coin. As she heads into the corner for, as you see the replay, that is a stick. No movement, no flinches. One foot slightly in front of the other, but not the slightest bit of movement as O'Coin finishes her routine. And we'll see what score Brown gets on that bars pass, which should be a good one. RIC ready to go again. Abigail Bunch prepares to head down the ramp. Still waiting. Got time on vault. And now ready to go up there. Brown prepares their second gymnast for bars, Paige Richter. So we'll watch the vault, and we'll watch the bars performance side by side. Now, nearly had it slip out of the grasp as there goes the vault. Looked to come up a little bit short, but was able to catapult herself off the table. Landed a little bit short too. That forces the step back. But at least clean for RIC as Richter continues. Richter's dismount, nice. Slight step back with the left foot, and you can see the frustration on her face. Richter would have liked to complete that. And again, she was oh so close. Sport of such fine margins. And she knows that she has that in her, but just could not grasp that bar with the outstretched hands. Richter, 5'2" junior from Colorado Springs, Colorado. Southern Connecticut State now holding the camera to themselves. And Southern Connecticut, Sydney Smith on beam. Kind of using the music to her advantage as well. Trying to rule the world on beam right now as she, nice. Again, holds that clean. You see her coach in the background intently focused on every single toe. Nice pirouette. Perfectly clean there. As she will Get ready for a dismount in just a moment. Gets ready for the backhand spring into the dismount. Got that twist in there. Lauren Lazaro scored a 9-7 for her first bars routine for Brown as RIC gets ready for another vault pass. Clean off the table. Good layout. Couldn't quite get into the pike position. And then there's the step back as Brown sends up Lauren McEwen. First time we've seen McEwen today. Similar to Richter and Lazaro. Lazaro, we did not see her on vault. Nice grasp as the Bears like what they're seeing so far. The cheers from the stands and from the teammates alongside. Here's the dismount from McEwen. Layout. Oh, just had that outstretched leg. Couldn't keep that right leg anchored, but still quality performance from McEwen. Bridgeport on the floor now. Tierney Milliken. Catherine O'Coin, a 9.35 on her floor routine. And Bridgeport nursing the slender lead after one rotation after a really nice beam performance. Richter got an 8.85 for Brown, second on bars. So far, RIC has sent two through the vault. Bunch a 9.175 and Kelsey Gates a 9.075. RIC, really good performance on floor, but would like to put up some higher scores on vault, which is typically the highest scoring of the four apparatus. You can afford one low score. That's what happened to El Maman earlier for Brown, as there goes another vault pass. Nice shirt check. Oh, again, so difficult. If you don't hit that springboard right on the money, it throws everything off. And that time, again, kind of scrunched the arms into the table and does not get the spring that you need to have. And when you're trying to go upwards of 2 and 2.5 twists, depending on how you come in, whether you go on the backhand spring or front hand spring, if you don't get that projection into the air, you're going to have a tough time. Brown back on bars. Ella Poli. First time we've seen her today. Poli goes bar to bar. And now prepares for her dismount. One more spin. Here she goes. Really nice dismount. Again, there's that slight step back, but the key is clean. You know, if you get a clean run, there's only so many deductions you can get for that step back. And as long as you convert the rest of it, you have a pretty good idea of what your score is going to be. And that is the beauty of gymnastics, is that because you know exactly what the score of your routine is in terms of a starting score, she got very close to hitting that left leg on the bar. As Southern Connecticut continues on their beam rotation. Alexa Melanson up now for the Owls. Nice round off there. One of those moves that is routine for a gymnast of this caliber, but when you watch the beam, there are some moves that look, oh, I could do that. And then there are other moves you're just blown away by. You should be blown away by every move, because doing that on a 10-centimeter beam is astonishing. So, RIC now heading for their sixth and final vaulter. And again, didn't quite get the catapult off the table, as Bunch a 9.175. Damiano 8.775 right now. That's the score that would drop off. Ferry a 9.3. Kelsey Gates a 9.075. Southern Connecticut's first two beam scores, Libby Allen an 8.825 and Sydney Smith a 9 even. Brown, that 9.7 of Lauren Lazaro was actually surpassed by a 9.725 of McEwen. Talked about how great a performance McEwen had. Just that slightest step back, but a really nice routine. As Abby Cantello returns. Tried to go full layout, and it's tough. If you're not perfect on the landing, you really have nothing to anchor yourself when you have that straight length body. But still, nice performance from Cantello. Richter an 8.85, Elapoli a 9.7, so 3 9.7s currently standing for Brown. We will see what Cantello gets. Would love to see another 9.7 plus, although that was a big step forward, including off the main mat. Great landing there. Perfect from Bridgeport as they continue through their floor rotation. Alexis Richardson. So, for Bridgeport so far on floor. O'Coin 9.35, 9.425 from Milliken as RIC continues and completes their vaulting. Nearly stepped out of bounds, but okay. I did not see her foot hit that line. That's one thing we've been very clean with today. Nobody has kind of over-tumbled on the floor. And you can see this replay of RIC's vault. Look at that full layout, perfectly streamlined body. Now that last step, they're still going to get her a deduction for that. As Brown goes out there, and this is Asta Farrell. Again, a difficult path for her in her Brown career. COVID year 2 years ago, ACL tear last year, and you see the length that she has, that slight step, and that's an outstanding routine. And Asta Farrell's face would make you think that she didn't like it. And she probably didn't, because when you are a specialist, as I said, when you only compete in one event, you want to be a perfectionist in that event. And even the slightest step forward will be a disappointment. But she should be proud of that, and I love what Brown put forth on the bars. Again, they really did have 5 clean routines. So that sixth and final one will drop off and put together a really nice score halfway through Brown's meet. Southern Connecticut continues on beam. Abby Royer now. That's a nice vault from RIC as well. Southern Connecticut pleased with their performance. I think they would have liked to put up a better score on bars than they did, putting them fourth of the 4 teams. Again, gymnastics is a sport. Even though the scores get into the high 180s, low 190s, it is a sport that is usually decided by mere tenths. And Brown can attest to that as their opening dual meet of the season back on January 15th. They lost to Yale by a final score of 191.85 to 191.225, less than 0.6 of a point over the course of an entire meet. So even though the scores sound high in terms of a sheer numeric value, they are not that high in terms of the discrepancies between schools. Everybody in the country can get into the 180s. The best ones can get into the high 190s. So in reality, 10 points separates the best and the worst in collegiate gymnastics. It's that fine a margin. Now, Brown, you can send out some exhibition gymnasts as well. We saw that from RIC. So really nice performance there. It's not going to count for the scores as their bars are done. 48.55 will be the unofficial score for Brown on bars. And they dropped the 8.85 of Paige Richter, and their lowest score will just be the 9.675 of Cantello, who really put together a good performance. So when your lowest score was a good performance, that means that your score is going to be pretty high. And 48 plus for Brown is exactly what you want to see. Would really love to see if you can get 48 plus in each event. That's great. And then the goal is, can you, again, clips 194. That is probably the coach's goal. It's a tough task. They beat 193 last week at the Oregon State meet. Ooh, tough fall for Southern Connecticut on beam. As Bridgeport continue a really nice meet. Again, they are a team that you may not hear about outside of collegiate gymnastics unless you are a fan of Purple Knight sports, which, unless you watch a lot of D2, you won't necessarily be familiar with. But this is an area that Bridgeport has distinguished themselves among collegiate schools. They are a perennial national title contender, as you see that slip off there. And you see how close that comes to being even more catastrophic. Your head just mere centimeters above the beam. But you got to get back out there and continue, and that's a really nice round off into a twist for the finish. Again, Brown putting some exhibitionists out there. That is the beauty. When you have some time, you get a chance to test some athletes, and that's a really nice dismount. Wow! Goes inverted. She comes inside, and then watch this. Watch her head. She's going to actually invert this and go the other way. Yup. Inverts into a front flip. That is a really tough skill. And again, that's not going to necessarily count for the scores, but that shows that you put that out there on a future meet, or if there's an injury or you just want to shake things up, I would love to see that one in scoring competition. I believe Bridgeport should have one more to come on floor before we go through another rotation. Now, Bridgeport, 3 scores have been reported so far, but there are at least 4 gymnasts in. And again, this is the difficult part of trying to keep track of where everybody is at any given point in time. We have 4 cameras so you at home can watch everything, but unfortunately, unless I put on my glasses, I don't necessarily have 4 eyes at a given time that I can split between the 4 cameras. So Bridgeport gets ready. So get you a chance. So Brown again, 48.55 on bars. RIC 47.950 on floor. And they follow that up with a 46.375 on vault. That is not what they necessarily wanted. It's tough to gauge. But again, vault is typically a higher scoring event. So a 46.375, a point and a half lower than their floor score. Eicher women won't necessarily be pleased with that. Southern Connecticut on beam, still waiting for their next scores to be reported. So we'll give you that when we get them. But that is a great tumble. And the Purple Knights love it. I believe this is Kieran Ross. As their 5th of 6. It is Ross, as Kenny got a 9.675, the leading score there. Southern Connecticut has one more competitor on beam, as after a really nice tumble on her initial pass, that one a little bit more disappointing, but again, that's one of those things that happens, and you see it happen at the Olympic level from the best of the best. You've got to shake off those tumbles. The falls are natural. If it can happen to Simone Biles in the Olympic Games, it can happen to a Division II or Division III or Division I athlete here in the States. And all you got to do is keep smiling and go right through it, and you'll get another chance next week. So really like that first pass. Nearly stuck that landing, but we will see what that deduction will be after the fall on the second tumble. But still, 4 good scores so far put up by Bridgeport. You're going to see this replay here. That's that first tumble. Really nice. And Bridgeport, I believe we should have one more for them. And I believe that was Kieran Ross, which would mean Their anchor, Sepulveda, would be coming up next. And that is Lola Sepulveda. And this is one of the things we've been looking forward to. Lola Sepulveda on floor. So what has she done on floor so far this season? Lola Sepulveda, she put up a 9-4 in her opening meet of the season at Westchester. Followed it up with a 9-3 in the Providence tri-meet, and then went to Temple last week. And this is the one that really jumped off the page. She puts up a 9.55 at McGonigal Hall at Temple down in Philadelphia. A 9.55 on floor. You see her numbers. The 38.05 placed her second in the all-around at Temple. And this is a competitor who will be her team's lone all-arounder today. So we will, as Southern Connecticut completes their beam, have all eyes on Lola Sepulveda. She is just a freshman. That's what's so impressive about her, too. She's putting up 9.55s on floor as a first year from Woodbridge, Virginia, hailing from Apollo Gymnastics. And here she goes. Perfect combination of athleticism and artistry in this routine as she gets ready for her initial tumbling pass. This is an incredible one, too. Wow! That little extra spin throws the full twist somersault in there, and that is why we highlighted her in the open specifically for her floor abilities. She's great in all four, but this is where she shines. And let's be honest, if you shine on floor in the sport of gymnastics, that's what gets you the social media attention and brings you all the accolades. And here's the artistry to go along with the athleticism. They set up the mat across from her, which usually means you're down for another outstanding pass. Here it comes. Goes full layout. Oh, I think she wanted another little twist in there, but she landed a little bit far and could not throw it in, so she adjusts on the fly, which you've got to do. It'll be a slight deduction as well as a decrease in potentially the starting score because, again, the judges know what she was supposed to do there. But that first tumbling pass is just outstanding. Here it is again. There's the 2.5 twists into the front handspring, front flips it over, and sticks the landing. That is amazing. We'll give you her score on the other side as we bring you to a close of 2 rotations of 4 here at Brown University. And we'll be back on the other side. The teams move again. We're through 2. You're watching Women's Gymnastics here in the Ivy League on ESPN+. Back inside the Pizzatola Sports Center. Great turnout on this Sunday afternoon, and we appreciate you spending part of it with us. As you see the results after 2 rotations, Brown, a really nice bars, including Asta Farrell's 9.75, and you saw her reaction. She still wasn't necessarily pleased with it. Bridgeport, 47.35 on the floor. Abigail Kenny actually had the highest score of 9.675. That last tumbler, thought that one pull-up where she didn't get that last twist in there might have decreased her starting score, and that's what cost her. 47.35 for the Purple Knights. 46.376 on vault for RIC mentioned. That is not what they wanted. Emma Tucker's 9.525, the leader in that category. And Southern Connecticut State, nice beam, 46 even, including Angel Lee, 9.775, the highest score of any athlete during that second rotation. So what does that mean for the overall standings? Brown currently in the lead, 96.725. Again, these are all unofficial scores. The officials at the end of the meet will all reconvene, make sure that nothing is amiss and that nobody was overscored or underscored and that all the math checks out before they release the final official results. We will bring you a little official results ceremony at the conclusion, but at least at the moment, 96-725 for Brown. That's a 0.6 of a point lead over Bridgeport, who had that really strong start on Beam and have continued to battle 96-125, RIC third, 94-325, and Southern Connecticut 92-725. So things kind of what you expected. With Brown leading the way, they are, again, the one team that has scored above 190 this season and has that average that we go through in the road to nationals. But Brown, if they double this up, so if they have the same scores over their final two apparatus, that would put them over 193 again, just as they were last week, but would leave them short of the 194 that they thought as a realistic goal today. Now, if you look at what they've done over the last couple of meets, which, again, they started a week later. Week 1 was 3 weeks ago. They had that week 1 bye, and so started their competition 2 weeks ago due to a postponed meet during week 1. But Brown has put up their best scores of the season on floor, which they will close with, but they have put up their worst scores of the season. Again, these are by the slimmest of margins, but that's what gymnastics is. They have put up their lowest average score on Beam. On the season, all three apparatus other than Beam, they have averaged above 48 through their first 2 meets. But Beam, 47-7-88. Now, they were above 48 in all 4 last week, which was a really nice meet, 193-625, a full 2.4-point increase over their opening dual meet against the Yale Bulldogs. And last week, 48-0-7-5 on Beam, which was still their lowest score. And again, talk about how scoring differs between the apparatus. Vault is typically one of the higher scoring events. Why? Because it's so quick and there's only so many things you can deduct for. Beam is typically the lowest scoring event. That's why Bridgeport's start there was so impressive, because they put up a score that everybody's going to have to chase on Beam. And now Brown heads there before they will close on floor, where they have been at their best, including a really great score of 48-4-5 last week on floor at that Oregon State Denver-Sacramento quad. So here we go for the third rotation, which will start momentarily. Bridgeport will start things on vault. Nice backhand spring. That's a great start for them. Yurchenko backhand spring into the vault. Off the table clean. And for Bridgeport, Lola Sepulveda, after her great finish on floor, where she posted the second highest score of any purple night, starting things there. Meanwhile, Southern Connecticut is now on to floor, and they will start things with Erica Beyer. And a nice start for her. So we'll quickly run you through. We'll start at the vault, because that's where we started. Sepulveda, Lindley, Kenny, Richardson, Street, and Chambers for Bridgeport. Brown, they will start their beam rotation with Lauren Lazaro, followed by Lauren McEwen, who put up a really great score. She was a little bit disappointed, but McEwen's score was strong for the Brown Bears on bars. So McEwen, Leza Marcus, first time we've seen her today, the beam specialist, followed by Lauren Kramer, Abby Cantello, and Angela Zing. Zing back in there after we saw her on vault. So in a strong start for Lauren Lazaro, who just as she led off on bars, leads off on beam, and she will do the same on floor. She is the textbook definition of the rock that you want leading off. Southern Connecticut on floor. Mentioned it's Erica Beyer out there now as she completes that tumbling pass. A little bit of an awkward leap at the end. Followed by Ava Kelly, Sienna Rios, Hannah Zebdi, Abby Royer, and Libby Allen. So getting ready for Bridgeport. And another vault for them, Savannah Lindley, one of the longer athletes we have here with that huge brace on the right leg, gets ready to tumble, heads down there into the round off, perfect off the table. Oh, but that big step, and that's an additional deduction. The step is a deduction, and then the side step off the mat is a second deduction. So that's how it all kind of accumulates. But again, because it's the vault and there's only so many things that can go wrong. So she actually has 3 steps. It's a side step, then the cross, and then the step off the mat entirely. So you get 2 small deductions for the steps and then a bigger deduction for actually leaving the surface. But still, as long as you go in clean, there's only so many things you can deduct for on the vault. RIC preparing for their second gymnast on bars. Emma Tucker led things off. Gracie Romero gets ready to go now, followed by Allison Silva, Abigail Bunch, Kelsey Gates, and Olivia Keys. If you're sensing a trend, that's because you should. Gates, Keys, Tucker again will compete in all 4 events for the anchor women today. Shortest trip of anybody to get here other than the Bears themselves. All they have to do is cross over the river, switch the highway, and make their way over from downtown Providence here to East Side. Brown, after a nice start from Lauren Lazaro, now turn things over to Lauren McEwen. And again, we saw McEwen on bars, and she wasn't necessarily pleased with her bars performance, but she scored the highest score of anyone on the team other than Asta Farrell. 9.725 was her unofficial score on bars. And here she goes onto the beam momentarily. Meanwhile, RIC is on bars themselves. Gracie Romero. See her length as she swings from low bar to high bar and prepares for this dismount. Full layout. Oh, I don't know how much they're going to give her on that one. It's not the perfect stick. The arm movement, and then eventually that foot did come forward as Bridgeport gets ready for another vault. We turn our attention to Southern Connecticut and their second athlete on floor, Ava Kelly. Ooh. And you see those knees tighten up, and there's only so much you can stick before it eventually gives way. And again, the step, much less of a deduction than a fall, so you're going to concede the step as she heads into the artistic component of this routine. There are some compulsory steps that everyone has to complete in each of their routines, regardless of the event, vault being the exception. But there is a degree of difficulty that you have to complete to get up to the necessary level, as it's called, in the sport of gymnastics. As Brown gets ready to go, here goes McEwen. Backhand spring into the round off. Oh, the hands go down. That'll be a deduction, but she's not going to get any deduction because she didn't fall off, which again is the key. Don't fall off is the modus operandi of the beam. Anything but that. And some of the more outstanding saves come on the beam. Again, these are those compulsory steps that everyone has to have, that 3/4 turn out of the split. As she gets ready, she'll have one more skill element before she heads into her dismount, which will come off of this backhand spring. So prepares. There's the skill element. And now we'll make her way toward the other end of the beam to prepare for her dismount. Good start from Lazaro. McEwen tries to back that up. This is all to set up the dismount. Again, goes for that split. RIC back on bars. Camera on your lower right. And here's the dismount. Nice off the side. Gets the full twist, plus the full roundabout as we see Bridgeport, their most recent vault. You see that's a lot of spinning, but talk about coming up short, and that springboard, there is such a small margin for error. If you do not get the spring, everything just compounds itself from there. Short into the table and short into the finish. And again, looks to be okay. SCSU, Ciana Rios prepares for her floor exercise. Into the corner for her initial tumbling pass. We'll give you some scores in just a moment as Rios. That's a stick. Nice. So Bridgeport coasting through their vault with 3 scores, all above 9-3-5. Kenny 9-3-7-5, Lindley, I should say, 9-5 even, and Sepulveda, the highest score so far, 9-6. Lauren Lazaro, really nice 9-5-7-5 on beam. Again, this is Brown's lowest scoring apparatus through their first 2 meets. But a great start, and what a nice stick on that handspring. As Brown into their 3rd athlete. Quickly on the beam was Liza Marcus. Barely got a chance to breathe after McEwen was finished. They give McEwen a 9-4, which again, that's a respectable score. If everyone for Brown can put up a 9-4 plus, that'll give an opportunity for their 2 anchors to really put up a good score, and that'll be Cantello and Zing. So Marcus has the camera to herself into a really nice dismount. Just the slightest deduction for that. That'll probably be a 10th max as she drags that right foot back. But we've had 3 really good dismounts for the Brown Bears. And that's what you want to see. And now you see on the replay, Rios just having fun. And that's what you want to see, that smile on the face. Not necessarily her favorite event. Her favorite event, or at least her highest scoring event, was not her best today. That was bars where she opened, but has bounced back nicely over her next 2 events. As Rios, after that 9-1-5 on bars, did not compete in the subsequent event on beam. And so gets back out there and puts together what should be a pretty decent score as Bridgeport, I should say, gets ready for another vault tumble. Already, they have moved fast to this vault, Bridgeport. Now, they will drop Alexis Richardson 7-5, which we saw on that replay, that tough tumble. And they'll keep the rest of those scores. Brown into their 4th gymnast, Lauren Kramer, on beam. Mentioned Kramer, 5'3" junior from Downers Grove, Illinois. And one of the things that this coaching staff for Brown really likes is their depth. We've already seen a number of different specialists come in on the different events. And how about that performance on bars for RIC? Understandably, we're focused on Brown as they get toward the latter stages of their beam rotation, but what a great performance on bars for RIC's Abigail Bunch. How about that save? You're so close to tumbling, and you just got to summon every ounce of core strength, and you see that outstanding dismount on bars from RIC. That's what you want to have from Abigail Bunch in your 4 spot, as a little bit of a step on the right foot on the dismount. But still, Brown, they're nailing down these numbers. And all you got to do, if you can get 3 or 4 in a row, it just gives confidence to the 5 and 6 as Southern Connecticut, 3rd gymnast on floor for the Owls. And what's always so fun, their entire lineup is in the background of that picture and doing the dance with them. That's a tradition that's lasted as long as gymnastics has lasted. And there's some fun. I'm not sure if I quite agree with the style, but then again, orange cowgirl hat with black and sparkly leotard. Who am I to judge? All 4 teams today have really put together some great scores and nailed some routines. It's still in a building stage, and everybody's at a different stage in their build as RIC on to gymnast number 5. Kelsey Gates on bars. Ooh, not sure if she quite meant to do that. Again, the legs kind of got caught, and you see she had to restart her tumble over the bar and puts the hands up, but you know that was not what she wanted to put together in the 5 spot. Never fell off, but 2 huge steps, including, again, 1 off of the mat. Back over to the Bears as they wait once again. Abby Contello in at number 5. So far for Brown, see 9.575 from Lazaro. Same score from Marcus, a 9.4 from McEwen. Still waiting for that 4th score as Contello takes to the beam. Southern Connecticut State will counter on the floor with Henna Zebdi. Good split off the round off. All 3 schools so far having really strong floor routines, and that bodes well with Brown due up final in that apparatus where they are usually at their best scoring-wise, at least through the first 2 meets. Last week, really great floor score. But this has been the area for Brown this season where, in their chase to break 194, the beam has to be better, and it is there. Inverted flip into a stuck landing from Contello. There's that really nice. Could have been a little cleaner in terms of the tightness. And again, any separation in the legs, and the judges are going to see that and deduct small amounts, and that's all it takes to drop you from a 194 to a 193.8. Such fine margins in this sport. RIC finishing another round of their bars rotation. Southern Connecticut will wrap things up, and 2 more gymnasts they still have to go. You see this nice dismount. Good pirouette across the top of the high bar. Those 2 steps would have liked those back, but again, we are splitting hairs. And at this point of the season, you can't expect every landing to be stuck. She'll still be pleased with that performance. For RIC at 5. Now is Kelsey Gates. Olivia Keys will anchor things for RIC. And speaking of anchors, this is Zing for the Brown Bears. Angela Zing, who we saw last in the vault. Her best event here, anchoring the beam, and you see why. Look how tight she is on that flip. Nearly stays in the same exact spot on the beam, but no flinching as she gets to that landing. That goes to the splits. These are the compulsory parts of this routine. That's why you see them so often. Everyone has to convert them. Able to finish that twirl nicely. Southern Connecticut at 5 on floor. Abby Royer taking to the mat. Nice dismount, stuck landing. Zing is going to post the score, and she is pumped up deservedly. Very few things to critique in that routine. It always feels like the judges find something, but that should be the highest score for Brown amongst their 6, and you want to get your highest of the 6 at 6, and they do. RIC completing their bars with Keys. Oh, she comes up short on that last grasp as Southern Connecticut in at 5. And mention that's Abby Royer for the Owls. So Keys will have to retake to the bars. She'll have to redo that exercise so she can at least keep that starting score. There's the dismount. Step back with the right foot. And now Southern Connecticut will have the stage to themselves for this final Gymnast Plus. Nice round off into the handspring. And that should be a good score. So, again, as we wait, Southern Connecticut will have one more gymnast to come on floor. That'll be Libby Allen. And they will have the stage to themselves. There might be a couple exhibition performances going on around, but that'll be the last competitive run of the third rotation. So, Brown on beam. Still waiting for Angela Zing's score, so we'll come back to that one. We've been all set on vault for a while for Rhode Island College. They posted an unofficial score of 46.375 on vault. We're still waiting. Well, they have posted 6 bars scores. So RIC, 9.275 for Abigail Bunch, 8.85 for Gates. Tied at the bottom with Allison Silva. So one of those 8.85s will drop off. Olivia Keys, 9.3, highest bars score for Rhode Island College unofficially, with an 8.95 from Gracie Romero, also standing. They have posted Angela Zing's score. It is a 9.75. So Abby Cantello at the top of that rotation and Zing anchoring it. Both put up 9.75s, and that will also join 3 9.575s put up by Lauren Kramer, Lauren Lazaro, and Liza Marcus. Lauren McEwen's 9.4 will be the score to drop out. So unofficially a 48.175 for Brown. And that would be their highest beam score of the year so far after a 47.5 against Yale and a 48.075 against Oregon State. So building that score, which means if they could potentially have their best floor score of the season, that 194 could still be in reach potentially. We'll have to do the math afterwards. But before we do that, Southern Connecticut wrapping off this third rotation. Libby Allen takes to the mat. Allen, the sophomore from Franklin, Tennessee, prepares for the next tumbling pass. Into the twist, rounds it off, lays it out, and nearly sticks it at the end. Final tumbling pass in Southern Connecticut, holding down the stage right now. One final pass to the Owls. Not sure if that right leg was supposed to go that far back, but still a nice routine to close things out for the Southern Connecticut State Owls. Big hug there from the teammates. And that brings us to an end of 3 out of 4 rotations. Strong performances from the Brown Bears, particularly Abby Cantello and Angela Zing, both posting 9.75s, and the fashion on point on this Sunday afternoon here at the Pizzatola Sports Center. We'll be back for the final rotation. Brown takes to the floor next. You're watching the Ivy League on ESPN+. Welcome back to Providence, Rhode Island, Pizzatola Sports Center on the campus of Brown University. Mason Stelf on the call as we take a look at the third rotation results. And all things coming up roses for Brown, 48.175 on beam, their highest score on that apparatus this season. You see that total 144.9 leading the competition so far. Bridgeport on vault, 48.025. Currently in second place through 3 rotations. RIC on bar is 45.225. Struggled a little bit there, dropping them to 139.55. And Southern Connecticut State had a nice redemption, bounce back, the highest apparatus score of any of the teams on floor, 48.350, bringing them into third place ahead of RIC and behind that really tight battle, just 7.5 tenths separating the top two schools. As we head to the fourth and final apparatus today, you see Southern Connecticut State. They will wrap things up first as they will, as we have seen today, speed through the vault. Lenny Dimkin will lead things off. She will have a very short day, but it is a very important day as she will be the first vaulter to head down there on her lone apparatus of the afternoon. Libby Allen, Ava Kelly, Brianna Dorr, Hannah Zebdi, and Lexi Brocker will wrap things up for Southern Connecticut over on the vault. There you see Rhode Island College. They will conclude things on beam. Kaylee Ferry will lead things off, followed by Allison Silva, Morgan Lund, Kelsey Gates, Emma Tucker, and Olivia Keys. We will want to watch Keys when we get to the sixth and final beam participant. That is her best event. Those are the Brown Bears. They end on their final event as their best event. The floor exercise has been their calling card so far through 2 meets this season, and they will send a very fun roster of Lauren Lazaro, Ella Poli, Sophia Dewar, Maya Davis, Carolyn Van Zant, and Julia Bedell on floor. And that will leave the bars for the University of Bridgeport. Lola Sepulveda, Abigail Kenny, Kieran Ross, Olivia Imbarlina, Catherine O'Coin, and Joanna Chambers for the Knights. You see them in their purple leotards, bottom left corner. You can see this 4-camera setup. Appreciate all the work we've gotten today on this Sunday afternoon. Try and bring you every single second of every single apparatus today between these 4 schools. Not easy to do. Southern Connecticut kicks us off as they head to the vault, and a nice start. Big leap back at the end, but still good trampoline work. I'll make sure that everything is cleared up there. We've seen a couple of difficult falls, but for the most part, everyone has been safe and no injuries to the report as RIC starts things on beam. Kaylee Ferry heads over there. Ferry, sophomore from Gilbertsville, Pennsylvania, leads off as Bridgeport, well, come off the bar. Sepulveda has had an up and down day for the Purple Knights. Really strong floor routine, Sepulveda, although she was not the highest scoring member of her team on that apparatus because she had to cut one of her tricks a little bit short. Here go the Bears. Now this song is about dogs rather than bears, but still letting out the animals. And the Bears loving their floor routine so far this season. Lauren Lazaro, she is having a great day for Brown so far. A 9.7 on bars, a 9.575 on beam, and trying to lay down a score to start things on floor. Lazaro, again, the lone player on the Brown roster listed at under 5 feet at just 4'11". Tiny but mighty as she ramps up the crowd. And the Wellesley native prepares for her second pass of the exercise. Here she goes. Into the nice layout. A couple of splits. Perfectly twisted and stuck landing. And that smile says it all. The rest of it just fun from here. And as she celebrates, look at that reaction. Here's that second tumbling pass. Perfect. There's 1.5 twists into another 1.5 and sticks it right in front of her coach, too. A little shimmy from head coach Brittany Harris, who loves it and deservedly so. Lazaro, outstanding for Brown, who again come into this rotation with an unofficial score of 144.9. So they would need to really pump the gas pedal 194 seems to be a bit out of reach. Again, in order to do that, they would need to eclipse 49, which is not going to happen. 49.1 would get them to 194. They're not going to get that. RIC back on the beam. This is Allison Silva for the anchor women. Holds it. Tough to do the beam with that leg brace on the right foot. Again, just the feel of the beam is so important, and when you have anything that keeps the skin contact, it's just sometimes difficult to get that feel, as well as that flexibility to make a save, but does there. And the reverse. Nice dismount for RIC there. Back to the floor we go, and Snoop Dogg blasts over the intercom. This is Ella Poli for the Bears. And this is why this particular apparatus is so much fun. The song choices, the artistry, and then the tumbles. Couple of steps there, that'll be a couple of tenths off, but still able to hold on. Well, there is no doubt that the song selection here for the Bear could be summed up in fun, which is ultimately what everyone here is having. There is a reason that every single seat here inside the Pizzatola Sports Center is taken as Southern Connecticut heads for vault number 3. Nice little step back at the end, but again, 3 clean vaults for the Owls. We've now moved on to 50 Cent. This is not going to be a 50-piece in terms of a score, but it's a great start for the Brown Bears. Another nice pass. And now on to the finish. So 2 good starts, which is exactly what you want from Lazaro and Poli for Brown. As again, this has been their highest scoring apparatus this season. Lazaro, have yourself a day. 3 apparatus and 3 scores above 9.55 in all 3. 9.7 on the bars, 9.575 on the beam, and then the highest of the bunch, 9.75 on floor for Lauren Lazaro. Lola Sepulveda's day is done. She completes her all-around with a score of 37.425. As her final rotation on the bars scores an 8.6, by far her lowest of the 4. And here we have the tallest of any of the athletes competing today over on the Bridgeport side of things, as nice on vault. You see the length that this young woman has for Bridgeport, and that's oftentimes why you see length. It's all about lines when it comes to the uneven bars. And able to hold on there. Been a little bit tough. Olivia Imbarlina for Bridgeport right now. Actually, that's Kieran Ross at 5'6". But you see that length as RIC back on beam here. This is Kelsey Gates. Either Gates or Lunn. Now this is Lunn at 3 on beam. Great sequence there as Brown onto their 3rd on floor, Sophia Duar. As she takes a Disney approach, starting with Friend Like Me. Just trying to get Again, the whole team is dancing behind her, which is always so fun. Heads into the far right corner for this pass. 2 passes happening simultaneously on your screen. That's a pretty one. Perfect landing. Just spreads the legs to anchor herself. Speaking of anchors again, RIC going for the dismount here. A little bit short on that one as Southern Connecticut similarly comes up short on their vault pass. Owls almost done with their day as Hannah Zebdi completes her vault. But so far, Brown 3 for 3 on floor. And they still have their heavy hitters to come in Davis, Van Zant, and Bedell. Julia Bedell in particular put up a 9.825 last week as you see the beads go on Sophia Duar. But this is exactly what Brown wanted coming into this final rotation. As you see the replay here. Into the round off, 2 full rotations and a perfect landing. Exactly what she wanted to do. And getting congratulations from Jay Vajegas, Alex Hyland, and of course Brittany Harris, her head coach, who continues to see week by week this team. They've got something special brewing potentially. Saw what they could do last week on a national stage going up against 2 nationally ranked teams. You see some of the artistry that even goes into the beam just to get onto the 10-meter piece of wood. And a great start there. That's a really nice first pass across the beam by RIC's Emma Tucker. Tucker, very clean so far. So far on beam, Morgan Lund's 9.475 is the highest score for the Anchor women. Oh, just could not hold on. And that, a routine that started off so promisingly, now has to get back on track after the premature dismount. Bridgeport getting ready to take to the beam just in front, or should I say the bar is just in front of me. And a good start for the Purple Knights is Imberlina, should I say O'Coin, in at 5 for the Purple Knights. Meanwhile, for Brown, after 3 great starts to this floor rotation, it's Maya Davis. And Bridgeport loves that, as they should. It's been an up and down day at times for the Purple Knights. Really started incredibly strong over on beam, but struggled at times on vault. But as you see, Southern Connecticut similarly enthused as they complete their vaulting. Tone changing a little bit with this music selection for the Bears, going classic after we've seen rock, we've seen Disney, we have seen a little bit of rap. But that's the thing, these routines oftentimes channeling the mood of the participant. And this time just showing off those classical skills and again, that artistry that you have to have this music selection. There is, just like there is in figure skating, there is legitimate strategy that goes behind how you set up your rotation as well as what music you choose for that athlete. So far for Brown, through 3 floor exercises. Lazzaro's 9.75 still the highest. Jawar, though, a 9.675, outstanding. Ella Poli's 9.425, still a strong score. If Brown can keep all of their scores above 9.4, you drop the lowest of those, you're going to be, again, knocking on the door of that 194. You're not going to get there today, That 49-1 that you needed coming into this fourth and final rotation, not going to happen. But 193 should be easily surpassed, barring a couple of falls over your final two athletes. And that's where it starts. If you can get back-to-back 193 pluses, that shows that you're in a strong position to build on that. We'll go through the schedules in just a moment of what's coming up for the Brown Bears. But first, the anchor women back on beam. Emma Tucker, nice dismount there for RIC's penultimate gymnast. For Brown, after this, they will meet Southern Connecticut again, and that will be a dual meet between the Owls and the Bears. That'll come your way next Sunday. This is part of a 3-week homestand for Brown, as they will complete that with Senior and Alumni Day against Springfield College on February 12th, 2 Sundays from now, before they go back on the road for another quad meet. Bridgeport will be in attendance at LIU alongside the Towson Tigers. You see the replay of this great dismount for Bridgeport. That is as close to a stick as you can get. Now, again, maybe leaves her feet by the slightest margin, but again, it's a cushioned mat, so it makes sense that you might leave your feet. But that is a great way to close things out for Bridgeport, as Catherine O'Coin and Joanna Chambers wrapping up their meet today. Brown back on the mat, and it's Carol-Ann Van Zant. Van Zant, floor specialist, and this is why. Does not step on that line, so stayed in bounds. Van Zant on the season has been very strong in this, her specialty event. 9-7 last week. She had a fall 2 weeks ago in the dual meet at Yale and scored 8.85, but throw that out. This is much more her caliber of gymnastics. Meanwhile, RIC on beam, and we knew that we'd have to keep an eye out for that because RIC's best gymnast is Olivia Keys on beam, and she anchors them. Meanwhile, Van Zant prepares for her final tumble. There is Keys. She can easily put up a score of 9.8 plus if she nails her routine. And you see why, just stoic as can be. But the swarm of Carol-Ann Van Zant continues to state it all. Brown, as Keys holds on. Brown started the day well, but still put themselves a little bit behind the 8 ball. Would have liked to have better than the 48.175 that they had on vault. That seems to be the event that will keep them from that 194 that they might have been hoping for earlier in the day. You would love for vault to be one of your higher scoring apparatus. Instead, their bars is currently their highest score, as there is Van Zant. Tucks, a big step back, but again, does not step on the line, so just the small deduction. And that will set the stage for what could be a really fun final floor routine from Julia Bedell. And we talked about what Bedell has done this season. Just a 9.7 and a 9.825 in her first 2 meets this season. That 9.825 at that quad was astonishing. You see, that's a good hold there, as you saw the hand slip a little bit from the Southern Connecticut State athlete, but was able to still get that spring off the table and complete it. But as we bring things toward an end here, a really outstanding meet all around. So Brown's first floor scores: Maya Davis 9.7, Dewar 9.675, Lazaro 9.75, and Poli 9.425. So it's Poli's that's currently the one that would drop off. And Brown in 5. I should say this is Van Zant. As they will, that is stunning. Look at the height that she gets off of that. Now this is Bedell. Brown going through their rotation quickly. So Bedell trying to cap what would be an outstanding day on the floor once again for Brown. Van Zant, a 9.775 unofficially. Great score to lead into the anchor. And you've already seen what Bedell can do. Just treats that floor like a trampoline and flies through the air. Here is the final tumbling pass for Bedell. Great. And she knows even that one can be improved upon. But the floor continuing to be Brown's friend. 48-325 before Bedell's score. So Brown will eclipse 193. That is a guarantee, barring some changes from the judges. Before Bedell's score is even posted, 193.225 would be Brown's unofficial final score. So it would still be 4/10 behind what they did last week, but that is before Bedell's score. Meanwhile, final unofficial score for Bridgeport, 189.975 as they knock on the door of 190. Barring adjustment, they will fall agonizingly short. RIC 185.8 and Southern Connecticut 188.975. But Bedell's score, when that gets posted, will be a big one. We will take another pause. We will come back with final unofficial results, as the judges will still have to convene and confirm the official ones. But another great day for the Brown Bears, as well as these other 3 schools. We'll come back in just a moment and give you the final unofficial results that we have, as Bedell's score still pending, but it's going to be a big one. You're watching Brown Women's Gymnastics and the Ivy League on ESPN+. We'll be right back in just a moment. Final time from the Pizzatola Sports Center as the Brown Bears post an unofficial score that matches what they had last week at Oregon State of 193.625. And these are unofficial results, but Brown will win, barring something crazy when the judges reconvene and confirm the official results, which you'll be able to find on brownbears.com once they're available. But Brown, 193.625, same score as last week, thanks in large part to Julia Bedell, who did post a 9.825 on that last floor routine. Bridgeport in second, first time they break 190 this season. 191.125 for the Purple Knights. Outstanding meet for them. Southern Connecticut in third, 188.975, but again, better than their season average. And Rhode Island College finishing fourth, but again, right around where they are averaging at 185.8. In terms of the individual event results, in the vault, Julia Bedell and Joanna Chambers tying for first at a 9.8, with Contello and Jordan Street of Bridgeport behind at 9.75. Meanwhile, in the bars, Asta Farrell, 9.75, wins that event alongside Bridgeport's Joanna Chambers, who places again. Lauren McEwen gets the bronze in this meet, 9.725 for her. In the beam, Nicole Javinet of Bridgeport, part of a 3-place sweep for the Purple Knights. Mentioned how strong they started there, and that stayed. 9.825 from Javinet, and Barry and Imbarlina second behind her, just 2.25 back of her at 9.8. Even on the floor exercise, it was Bedell, shocker, who gets the highest score of the day at 9.825, followed by Southern Connecticut's Hannah Zebdi and Carol Ann Van Zant of your Brown Bears with a 9.775 in third. Of the 4 all-around gymnasts, RIC had the highest score, 37.825 of Keys, followed by Lola Sepulveda's 37.425 for Bridgeport, and Tucker and Gates, both of RIC as well, at 37.1 and 36.45. They're going to have a little bit of a celebration for those highly ranked gymnasts today, but that will take some time to get assembled. And again, you can see the final results once they are posted on brownbears.com, but a great meet for Brown overall. If you can boost that vault score, there is no doubt that they can eclipse 194 within their next couple of meets, as their floor is fantastic. We see what they can do on bars and beam as well. And their beam particularly impressed me today as well, with them raising their top season score in that department as well. You raise the vault, keep the beam improving, and stay what you're doing on bars and floor. No reason to believe you cannot eclipse 194. And good meets as well, particularly from the Bridgeport Purple Knights, but nothing to sneeze at as well from Southern Connecticut State or from Rhode Island College. Again, we will be back here next weekend, part of a 3-meet homestand. Southern Connecticut will be right back here for a dual meet against the Brown Bears, coming your way Sunday at 1 o'clock. We would not be able to do it without this outstanding crew. Obviously, 4 cameras set up going simultaneously, so our camera crew could not thank them enough, as well as the great producer-director duo of Chris Adams and Becky Schonecker. My name is Mason Stauff. We will see you next weekend here from the Pizzatola Sports Center. But Brown, 193-625 for the second meet in a row as they take down this quad in their home opener. You've been watching the Ivy League and Brown University here on ESPN+. We'll see you next time. Have a great rest of your Sunday, everybody.